to the What You Don't Know podcast, brought to you by the Know Like Trust Report, a simple, actionable survey that asks the most important questions. My name's Teresa Nichols, and I'm honored to have as our guest today Dayne Cooper, who is my son and works in food service and has been working in food service for, I'm going to say, 8 years. Is that about right?
Uh, I'm gonna say upwards of four. It's
Okay.
it's been a minute. It's been a minute.
Okay. And you are a manager in food service. And Dayne said something that I thought it would be really cool to interview him. And it was this really interesting moment because what he said made me think just that he had to do some serious adulting. And I thought that was so cool. So, Dayne, tell us a little bit about this, that you said that when your customers come in, even if they're upset, you do something. Can you talk a little bit about what you do?
Well, obviously, I always introduce myself. I say what's going on, and I'll ask them if they have any problems, they have any issues, or if they have any feedback for us as a team, as a restaurant. I always make sure that I smile and act like, I'm happy to be there, I'm happy to talk to them, because even if a customer is upset or if they're disgruntled, or if they have an issue, it helps a lot if you just look at them and talk to them calmly and just get to the bottom of whatever is going on. Even if they just want somebody to yell at and you stay positive the entire time, they look at you, they're like all confused, like, why is he not giving me the rise that I want? And at the
Yeah.
end of it, they're like, wow, I was really mean to this positive person. And they apologize, oftentimes before I could even solve their problem.
Wow.
And then they leave. And I'm like, excuse me, can I get you this or can I get you that so we can solve your issue? And then they'll come back like, oh, I totally forgot. So I just think it's really, really great to always approach a situation with calmness and compassion.
That is absolutely amazing. I was so impressed when I heard that. I have worked in retail before, and I generally will try to make the customer happy, but I don't think I've ever done anything to that level. So I just thought that was really cool that is how you solve those problems. And I thought it'd be a great thing for this podcast about feedback and about how you respond to feedback. So that was really awesome. So high fives. I love it. That was so cool. By the way, I am recording on location today. I am in the Bahamas. This is a real background. It's my Bahama shirt instead of my KLT shirt today. But sorry, so why did you get into food service?
Well, you'd probably know this, but we didn't really do too much like high-end cooking or knife work. We didn't really develop knife skills at home. You were never like, hey Dane, can you dice this onion? Or like, let's look up videos on how to dice jalapenos. Uh, so I started really getting into cooking in high school because I was getting bored eating the same old high protein foods, high rices, and basic carbs that I had to eat in sports just to try and keep my body to the high level, high performance that I needed. So I started using the knives in the kitchen, and I was like, why is this so dull? What is going on here? And it would take me forever to try and prep my foods. So I started to get a little better at it. And then I saw the people in the back of this restaurant, and they were re-prepping food. And I was like, how is your hand moving that quick with a knife? Like I would slip, my hand would be missing at a certain point throughout this process. So I applied and I got the job, and they actually started me out with a higher than base because they saw how excited I was just to work in a kitchen. And I don't know, I started it and I fell in love with the job by itself. Sometimes you have some rough management or some rough locations, but it's just a very rewarding and very, very fulfilling, very entertaining profession to be in.
Well, and I know that the place that you work is the kind of place that I know when we go out to eat, we like to go there because it has healthier options that a lot of places do. So I remember too that that was something that I think drew us all to it, and you particularly for working there. So interestingly, that this organization already has a reputation that people know, like, and trust them. So what's nice is that what you have to do is just maintain that, right? When
Mhm.
people walk in, you have to just maintain that know, like, and trust vibe that people already have when they walk in. So do you have any thoughts on that, that know that you don't, well, you still have to build that know, like, and trust, but not so much. It's really just maintaining it. So any thoughts that you have on that would be great.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I work at a restaurant that does have different locations. So with one logo, you kind of get one shot at a first impression, you know? So when
Right?
somebody comes in and they're like, "Oh, I just went to the other location. I was up there, a week or two ago, and this one's closer to me. So I chose to come in here because I do like the food, but sometimes the service isn't the best." So how I run my restaurant is a little bit differently to how other people run their locations. And just that in and of itself makes my job a little more difficult because I'm not always starting with a good rapport. Sometimes I have to take a bad rapport and give them a bit of a better experience than they've had in the past. And we don't just have to do our job correctly. We have to do it so correctly that their opinion starts at the bottom and comes up. So if it was their first time in our restaurant, they'd be like, "Oh wow, I love it. It was amazing. Everything was perfect." Now, the second time in a restaurant with the same logo, after not having a great experience, it's not, "Oh, that was amazing." It's, "They did a good job. They did better than they had in the past." So it's
Very
like you
true.
slowly inch up that rapport until
Very
that
true.
person is a regular at your restaurant. And
Yeah.
then you can slowly start to talk to the people at the other restaurants and be like, "This customer that you were having an issue with, this person yelled in your face. But this person comes up to me every day and they ask how my day is going when they don't have to do that to get good service from me."
Nice. So do you feel like at your restaurant that you have a lot of returning people that are just kind of like, you know them and they know you and you have built that rapport?
At my location currently, not yet. We just started about 2 weeks ago. So
Oh,
it's been a very difficult process, just training all of our people, getting everyone up to snuff, up to standard,
yeah.
and the customers that are coming in are they're weary of their condition of the situation of the restaurant, and they know that a lot of people are very new. So I had a girl in the other day, and she didn't get the right order. We do have a carry-out service, so she didn't really check the food before she had it at home, and then she finally got home and she was like, "Wow, this isn't right." So she had a very different approach from her boyfriend. Her boyfriend got all of the right food in his order, but he was very upset that she didn't get what she ordered. So she called in, and on the phone I heard yelling and screaming and cursing, and my ears started to hurt. It was so bad. So I'm not gonna lie, I hung up the phone because
Wow.
not just me at my restaurant, but I don't expect any of my crew members, any of my employees to handle that kind of abuse.
Sure.
So she called a few more times. I did not answer the number. If a customer is not going to be polite and appropriate with me, then they do not have the right to come into the restaurant. And she came
Wow.
down, she came into the building, she started telling me the situation, and I cut her off right then and there. I said, "This is why I hung up the phone. This will not be tolerated at this restaurant. And if you're going to yell and scream, I will have to ask you to leave." And she apologized right there on the spot. She said,
Wow.
"I really just wanted to tell you that I didn't get the right order." And I said, "I can absolutely fix that right now. Just tell me what you want, and I will take care of it." So
That's amazing.
then I got all the food together. She didn't have to pay for it again. It was exactly what she wanted. And I gave her a drink and some sides to apologize for the issues. It
Oh
was a
yeah.
very wonderful interaction.
Wow. That's really cool. So are you empowered then to I mean, it sounds like they've empowered you to solve those kinds of problems. So do you feel like you've
Absolutely.
been empowered? That's really cool. Man, that's
As a leader
amazing.
at the restaurant, I am responsible for those things. They don't just give me the ability to do that, they expect me to make those issues disappear.
I wrote that down because that is a thing that people abuse certain situations. And I love that you handled that way.
You.
So let's talk a little bit about, because you mentioned requirements and regulations. And now, so now you're at this new restaurant. Are you, this new location, are you guys dealing with that kind of thing now where people are coming in and checking the box and like making sure you guys are hitting all of the regulatory, the requirements for the restaurant?
On a base level, we've went into that. We go through our own audits ourselves every single day just to make
Okay.
sure that we're prepared for the day that the auditor comes in. There's a specific, very strict audit that happens once a quarter, and we aren't on time for that yet. Our first one is going to be coming up in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
But we did have our first, what was that? It was I can't remember the exact name, but they came in just to make sure everything was food safe and ready and good to go. They come in, they check the temperatures of the food, they check how everything is prepared, they check the cleanliness and rodent situation. So we did have a light audit, but our standards are much higher than that audit
Nice.
specifically requires.
Have you ever gotten any interesting feedback from one of those audits throughout your time at this organization?
Absolutely. Sometimes there's feedback that we get from these audits that we weren't exactly expecting, and it's something that definitely falls below our standards. Like, if all of the food in the morning isn't prepared correctly with enough haste, with enough pace, then the food temperatures won't be right when we're keeping them in the cooler and the walk-in during the time they're waiting to be prepped. So we prep all day. We'll prep the food in the morning and then keep it cold so we can make it later. And if that food is not at the right temperature, and the people I was trusting in the morning, the people I have a good rapport with, that prepare that food before the location opens, then I have to have very specific conversations with them. And the conversation doesn't just have to be, oh, why didn't this happen? This needs to happen. Here are the issues. I have to also give them feedback on how they can improve this. I have to give them solutions as well as feedback. And those solutions have to fix the issue. So if I tell them one thing that has worked for me, if it doesn't work for them, then I now have a bad rapport with that person as a leader. Sometimes the people that come in and do the audits are just a little too strict. Like, one of the questions is the lighting was sufficient, safe, and appropriate. And you can have an entire building beautifully lit, perfectly visible, and if one bulb flickers once while they're there, then they put a check mark down on you failing the entire the entire point, which is very upsetting.
That's an interesting thought though, because I do think that feedback will vary depending on the person. And you could have the exact same experience, and one person will give you a 10 and another person will give an 8 just because it is very personal experience, that it is very individual. So that's really interesting
Hmm.
that you've noticed that. So yeah, and I do think that with the no like trust report, that stuff is figured out in that process because the the major part of the report is a 0 to 10 spectrum. So it's going to average out in the long run. As long as you have the right numbers, it's going to average out and it's going to give you an accurate read. So I'm my hope is that the no like trust report will will fix that. As the more people you get to do the report, it will fix that and give you a really great response and a result so you can use that information. So let's talk about you as a manager of people. And if you've had to give anyone difficult feedback, or just the idea of having to give people feedback. It sounds like right now you have a lot of new people. So this might be a time when you've experienced having to give people a lot of feedback. So share some stories about times when you've had to give feedback, and maybe if it was a little bit difficult, or what.
Well, I really like how you put your feedback in terms of know, like, and trust, because that's kind of how I give my feedback whenever I'm talking to anyone in any of the restaurants that I've been at. Sometimes it's people that have been in food service for 5 to 10 years, and I have to look at them and I have to say, I personally, I do not know you. I talked to you a few minutes ago. I really enjoyed the conversation, so that part's me saying, like, I don't know you. I like you, but me giving you this feedback right now is saying that you have not done your job adequately. You're not meeting our standards. You're not keeping the food safe. So that means in this very moment, I do not trust you. So I know I don't know you. I do like you, but I do not trust you.
Wow, okay.
Um, People that I've been training in my restaurant currently, a lot of them have a very good approach to the job. They're excited to learn new things. They're excited to be in a new position. They're excited to be in food service. So we're giving them this opportunity to learn how to cook, not just for themselves, but in a professional environment. So the people that are more excited about the job, I'll have conversations with them. I'll get to know them. I'll see what's going on. So in that moment, I'm saying, okay, we had this conversation. I know you. And I like what you're doing. You're giving a very good effort to this environment, to my job, to our restaurant and service, and I see that you're taking this seriously, so I like you. I know you, I like you. What you're doing right now isn't right. I don't know who trained you on this specific task. I know it wasn't me. I didn't have the opportunity to train you correctly, but we're going to get you trained right now. So I know you, I like you, I do not trust you. So I will give them that positive feedback in the first two steps. I always try to make sure there's some positivity there. If I can't give positivity, then I will have a very serious conversation. And instead of saying, I'm going to come back and I'm going to see how you're doing with this task, that's saying, like, I do know the person and I understand what they're doing is like, the effort they're putting forth is right. Somebody else, I'll say, I'm going to be watching you for this entire shift. And if you don't do what I'm asking you to do, you will not have a job anymore. So I do not know you. I do not like you. You are not putting in a valid effort. And I do not trust you at all. And in that moment, they have to understand that 3 strikes is their last chance. This is their last chance to make a positive impact on me as a leader, or they will not be allowed in our team anymore.
You to let people go throughout that process?
Oh, absolutely. When I tell them if this doesn't get fixed by the end of the shift, by the end of the night, I'm saying you don't have a few days to fix this. This is an urgent matter. I'm not going to let you slowly progress to a point where you're doing a good job. You have one chance. And then if
Wow.
I come back and they're doing the same thing that I told them not to do, or they're not changing their mistakes quickly enough, I will just tell them to leave. And
Wow.
in that moment, I have to have enough confidence with myself that I can do my job and that I can finish their job in a reasonable amount of
Absolutely.
time for it to make sense for the company.
Hmm. Yeah. That's intense, Dane. I didn't know. That's crazy. That's
There
intense.
is a lot going on. And
Wow.
I mean, you remember those late nights that I was having when I was working 7 days a week and I had an abundance of money on my paycheck that I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even need, and I wanted to sleep,
I
but
know.
we have a job to do, and that job has to get done.
Yeah.
And our, if the people we're supervising are not up to the task, then we've got to step up.
That's really cool. So what about you? Have you ever gotten feedback That was really helpful. Do you have mentors? Do you have people that support you and give you good feedback?
So, yes and no. Getting feedback from the people I'm supervising for my team, it usually takes about 3 to 4 weeks before they're actually comfortable with sharing my management style with myself. They're like, I don't really like how you do this. Or when you did that in this way, it kind of made me uncomfortable. So different people, you have to give feedback in different ways. Some people like to be pulled aside. They like to be one-on-one because they're worried about everyone around them creating an opinion of them. And others really like to have feedback in the moment with all of their peers present because they don't want to feel like they're being singled out or they don't want to feel like they're alone with someone. It makes them feel slightly unsafe. So I take those feedback and I try and adapt my management style to just make everyone feel safe. But it always does take some time. I try to make myself a very approachable leader so I can hear how they feel, so I can hear what's going on with their day. So they feel more positive and more willing to take feedback from me. They feel more safe on our shifts so they can just focus on their job instead of focused on how negatively I impact their lives.
Nice.
When you were
That's
talking
awesome.
about mentors and mentorship, sorry, did you want to comment on that? My bad.
No,
I'm
that was
kind of
awesome.
running on a
No, keep
tangent.
going. Go ahead. That was great. You said when you talk about mentorship. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So as a leader, I am a necessity for that restaurant to function. And if my supervisors or the people who assist me in running the restaurant don't feel that I'm doing something in a correct way, or they feel like I can do it better, they don't really like to say anything. They like to watch and wait for me to correct those actions myself, which
Wow.
is not very helpful because
Okay.
they're scared that if they give me feedback at the wrong times, that I will leave.
Yeah.
But it kind of makes it more difficult for me to do my job because I don't exactly know what my mentors are looking for.
Yeah.
So then, instead of getting adequate feedback as I progress through the skills in my journey, I am getting what is that called when you give someone a instead they give me an ultimatum. They say this is fixed or else because they've already been watching it happen for a week, 2 weeks, a month, and they're tired of it. So instead of fixing that action in the beginning, I get an ultimatum, which makes it very difficult for me to fix my actions because now instead of just thinking about the progress I have to make, I'm thinking about how stressed I am. I'm thinking about the consequences. I'm thinking
Yeah.
about I have to get this fixed now instead of this is a small problem. I have time to correct myself.
So compare that to how you talk to somebody, because it sounds really similar. Because you said that when you have a new person and they can't do their job, you say, hey, you got to do it today. You got to have it today. So do you feel like you're creating that same stress for somebody else? Yeah, just yeah, go back to that a little bit.
Wonderful question, by the way. I tried to explain it a little bit better, but I guess I didn't do an amazing job at that. So with people that I am watching progress after I give them immediate feedback, I can see that they have a passion for the job. Some people just don't want to be there, and they make it very obvious. They make it everyone else's problem, and they're very unproductive.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give everyone the same amount of patience in the beginning. So let's say on the first day, I've got one person that is trying for them as a person, and they're making a bunch of mistakes. I will comment on the mistakes. I will say, you don't have to go so fast. I see that you're putting in effort, and we're going to make sure that our efforts are more efficient so that you're actually doing the right thing instead of creating more work for yourself later. With other people, you can kind of tell that they're not working hard at all. And instead of saying, you're not doing well enough, that needs fixed, I will say, we need to work on your pace, and I will give them time to progress at their own speed. So their pace at the job has to improve. If I see their hands moving a little faster, If I see them looking around like, how can I make this process more efficient for me? Then I give them tips and hints and tricks to say, here's how you can make it more productive. Here's how you can be more efficient. Or in this one thing you do, I see you're focusing on it way too much. So how about we move a little faster at this step that's a little bit easier for everyone, and then we can progress in that way. And the people that don't like that feedback, the people that really, it irks them to have someone commenting on their work immediately, I'll be a little bit more patient and I'll watch. And every time they make a mistake, I will be there. I will tell them the mistake was made, and then I will make them do it again. And if that doesn't create a positive reaction like it is supposed to, if it doesn't give them the kick in the butt, then I will give them that final ultimatum like, you do this right, you do this quick, or you don't have a job. Because if someone is refusing to do the work correctly, if someone is refusing to listen to kind, instructive criticism, if someone is refusing to take feedback, then there is no reason for them to be on that team.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah. So you feel like how you give feedback is a bit more patient and understanding than some of your mentors have been, where they give you that ultimatum. But what, when was there a time when they did that to you where, because you still have this job, so you have gotten through some of those situations where somebody had given you that ultimatum, right? So it sounds like you handle that pretty well, even though it stresses you out, right?
It's incredibly stressful. And at first, I feel like I would do a little bit better without that stress. But in those stressful moments, then that's where we realize our true strength, our actual ability to adapt and overcome. When I was working at this same restaurant in a different city, I was getting very negative reactions from the people that were working with me, from my teammates. And I told that to my boss. I told that to the guy who was running multiple locations in, multiple cities. And he said, I noticed you had a bit more aggression towards your management style, and you were a lot more strict. And he says that works in some restaurants that are high end, people that have already
Mm-hmm.
gone to culinary school, people that had a dedication to their job, see that and realize they need to step it up. But others need a little bit more patience. The people we work with need a little more patience. So he said that as soon as he starts talking to someone, he tells them how much he appreciates that they're there. He gives them 2 points of positivity, and then he makes a bit of physical contact. So he'll touch their shoulder, or he'll gesture to their hands, or he'll step a little bit closer and look them directly in the eyes. I'm not as touchy-feely in the workplace as he likes to be, and he does it very professionally. I don't think I would be able to do that professionally with my comfort level. So I try to make sure that I keep things positive. I make sure everyone feels appreciated, which is definitely something that I wasn't doing before. And even if I don't appreciate everything they're doing, I will always find some way that they impact the team in a positive way.
That's really great.
It
I
took a
had,
lot of time to get there for it to work. At
okay.
first, people just thought I was annoying. And they were like, why is he thanking me so much? Why is he smiling? He doesn't want to be here. And over time, I realized how to make my compliments, my appreciation, and my smile more genuine.
Yeah, that's a good word too. Yeah, authentic, genuine. Those
Authentic,
are really good
genuine.
words. Yeah. Yeah, and it was really interesting that you said that at different levels of a career, some people can handle that, more of that kind of pushy feedback, versus people that are in the beginning of their career may not be able to handle that kind of pushy feedback. So that was really interesting. And then, the other thing that you said that was really interesting and kind of alluded to was that feedback can be stressful, and adapting is really, really important. And I love that. That's awesome. Those are really great things to kind of like end our interview with, since it's starting to rain. So, so
I
that's really
forgot that
cool.
you were
So
outside. I was thinking you were like at a canopy.
I know, yeah, there's a wall right there, so I'm not feeling any of it, but I'm hearing it, and it's
Okay.
loud. But I did want to offer you a free no like trust report. So what I would like to do is send you your link, and then I'll send you a QR code too. That way, if there's any way you could use it, if you can take advantage of it, that would be really cool if you would like to do that. And
That
so
would be wonderful.
thank you so much for the interview today. It was awesome. If I was right there, I would hug you. But we're a couple hundred miles apart. So thank you so much, and I will see you soon, very soon. And have an awesome evening, and we'll talk really soon. Thank you.
I would love to. Thank you for the interview.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Thanks for being here.